special day for us. We are live, face to face, no Zoom. And it's great to be there for the first time, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's great. It feels really good that we managed to establish this connection and be together here. First time in this scenario also, like where we are today.
Yeah. And so today, guys, we're going to talk about resilience and nature. So it's a continuation of this series. So, but before we do that, just tell us what else is happening.
So guys, what's happening is that Friday now, our website is coming live. It's a place where you can find a lot of resources, blog articles. There will be more people that are connecting with us, more associates, more momentum guys coming. We already have a good blog post with Marcus, and we can find more about mental models and other areas like OKRs for your life purposes, of your career also. So there will be Catherine, and we are releasing a survey where now we have a booklet out called the 21 Days of Journal, Resilience Journal, how you build resilience in 21 days journal. So these are exciting times for us. We're releasing these materials to the community, and please keep tuned. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on different channels. So it's a very good time, and very exciting to be here now in London also.
Excellent.
With Johnson.
Cool. So we're going to start, Andy. Just tell me what's your experience of nature, and how does that fit into well-being for you?
Right, nature for me, this is one of my favorite topics because the older I get, the more inclined to being in nature I am, and in the wilderness, and being out there in the wild, in forests, mountains, rivers, whatever it is. Because I was born in a way very close to the sea, and it's something that was my daily routine, and just going out with my cousins and swimming and doing a lot of activities by the beach, and that was a very, very beautiful memory. But life turns into different ways, and I moved away from there, and that also affected me. But in 2015 I heard almost like inside of me that I had to go back to nature to find myself and find my nature again. So that's what it started 5-6 years ago, to reconnect to nature and to start being, let's say, healed and cleansed and transformed by the power of nature. So for me, it was a powerful experience. I'm reading a book now called The Hidden Lives of Trees by Peter Wohlleben. He says that nature is a strict teacher. I think it's a very important aspect for us to observe, is that we need this teaching. We need to be shown again how to live. We got disconnected from the source, from where we come from. And it's very important for me. The journey of going back to nature also, it was a journey of refining myself and fine-tuning and understanding the things that inside of me had to change.
So let me just talk about that book for a second. When you reference the fact that this author says that nature is a strict teacher, is that a sense of where it's like nature teaches you, and you have to align yourself to what nature is saying?
Exactly.
Because nature is not chasing you.
Exactly, because it is teaching us. Yeah. And let's put it that way, simply the fact that now we are chasing sustainability. So for example, through sustainability, we're trying to understand how we can heal it. For me, to begin with, it's a little bit of arrogance for us to try to fix nature.
Yes. Yeah.
Our lifespan in the planet is so short in comparison to the whole nature around us.
Correct.
And civilizations come and go, and now we think that we can fix something. And it reminds me of Albert Einstein says, you cannot solve problems with the same thinking that it created. And we still have not learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are we asking nature exactly how we should be doing it? Or we think we have the answer to it, which we don't.
Yeah. So what happened, what was the process for you of rediscovering nature externally and then connecting to your own internal nature?
The process is very simple. First of all, you have to step out of your house and find places that you can really contemplate, meditate, walk. And then you start asking questions, internally or even verbally. But you can start asking the questions about why you're here and what do you need to do. And also, it's a humbling experience that you cannot find yourself in nature if you don't humble yourself. And I think we have an episode, guys, we talk about awe.
Correct.
And that goes back to awe also.
Yes.
And I think even in terms of my own life experience in 2013 and 14, I was coming out of a lot of brokenness. And the strength and the resilience and the bouncing back that occurred from there to where I am now has been amazing, right? And the testimony that I had from friends later on, they say, "Oh wow, I found you again. You're back."
Yes.
And
the energy, the light,
the vibration that you get from humbling yourself, from say, "Hey, I don't know the answers, but I'm here." So for me, that is the beginning of the process. And you'll be slightly different from different people, but the beginning of the process is always the same. You have to humble yourself and say, yes, I don't have the answers. Yes, I've disconnected myself, and now I'm here.
But I think to add to that, the process of reconnecting is not a 5-minute process.
No.
All these questions that you talk about that come up, most of the times, I think, the questions come up and you either push them down again or you just give it 2 seconds thought and then you get on with the rest of your life. Where I think what you're describing it's an immersive process in nature. It doesn't just happen in one day, two days, a week.
And there's a lot of study, there's a lot of reading that goes with it. There's a lot of digging and research. And for example, where I am now, I'm specifically learning about trees. So I'm so excited about this time where I can actually understand a little bit about the lives of trees. I know very little about that is like 0.001% what I know. But just understanding that trees are social beings.
Yes.
They have senses, they have feelings, they have emotion, they cry for help, they cry when they are in pain, all that proven science, and they help each other out. So we can understand so much how we live in community if we understand the life of trees.
Yeah.
So the more we understand about nature, the more we can improve our lives and improve the lives of our community around us.
I believe that's also true of things like fungi and mushrooms, where most of what you see, most of what is there is invisible to what we can perceive because it's all on the ground. So a lot of the connections are it's linked to what people would say it's this soft, touchy kind of stuff, but we can only focus on the hard stuff we could measure. So trees, stuff within nature, a lot of it happens under the surface.
Most of it, yes, exactly. And there's a very much symbiotic relationship between the fungi and the trees themselves. Without the fungi, without their symbiotic relationship, trees wouldn't be able to survive also.
Correct. And just to pick up on your point in terms of community, where you look at strong winds that come, strong winds for trees or strong winds for people, it is that community that it allows you to be protected. One tree on its own will be blown over very, very quickly. But a group of trees in a clump, they protect each other from the wind. And not only that, but for me, one of the analogies is this, that, if there's a group of trees, if there are a group of these plants, and it's there around each other, if the wind comes from this direction, this plant will get it first and protects the others. But if it comes from a different direction, each tree serves a different purpose in terms of protecting. And I think that's important in terms of where we are in resilience and building community resilience. That the community, there's almost a sense of there's the individual resilience and there's a community resilience. So that, like you say, life goes on, doesn't it?
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think also in nature we can learn about resilience in terms of looking at what happened in places where there's been a fire, there's been like a catastrophe, tsunami, and the resilience of building. It's almost like a resurrecting gift. That things come back to life. Chernobyl, for example, 35 years ago, and you go back now, you see all the wild creatures back there, and how nature took over, and that ability of that resilience ability, it's amazing.
Yes, that whole point of resurrection is something that's just hit the news headlines today, in fact.
Really?
That these insects have been hibernating, forget this, 17 years they've been hibernating. Wow. And now there's 17 million of them being produced, or being, for want of a better word, born every day. And so all of that sense of there's life that's going on, and it's invisible, or it's hibernation is still life. And so in that respect, everything that is within the ecosystem has that ability to continue on. So in terms of, you talk about Chernobyl, and you talk about where you have been. So do you think there's a sense where a lot of this is transcendent?
Yes, I think if you look at literature, if you look at poems, and if you look at writers, time and time again, we see them going back to nature, or writing in nature, or getting inspiration. So I'm a big fan of transcendentalism. I think I mentioned it before, and with Thoreau or Emerson, and all this, Margaret Fuller, and all these guys that in that movement about roots and nature and native elements, I think it's very important for us to understand that it's an inspiration for us to live, to embrace life, to also become simpler, because it's about self-reliance. It's about learning about the silence within, contrasting with the sound of nature. It's almost like you walk in cacophony, and in nature it becomes harmonious again. We bring all that urban craziness of busy lifestyle, of screens and lights and everything, and that cacophony inside of you, when you go into nature, it transcends and it changes that harmony and the sound and the experience. Then you become harmonious again.
Yep. Yes, I think that's important. Where I get that. So, for instance, one of my regular patterns is, if I go for a run, at the end of my run, I stop. And I don't mean I do stop because I'm dead exhausted, but I stop and I physically attune what I see, what I hear, and what I feel, all of my senses. So my pattern is I'd stand and I'd look straight ahead, and I'd take in all that I see, and then I close my eyes. And depending on where the sun is, if you stand and you can feel the sun burning through your eyeballs, or the heat of it, or the light of it. And that sense of silence, but it is not silence because nature has its own rhythm, it has its own sounds. And if you stand and you can feel, you can do it now, you put your hand up and you can feel air moving past your fingers. Even in a room like this, you can feel it. But if you go outside, then the movement that wind is, and just to hold on to it, and it aligns yourself with something greater than yourself. And I think that's an important piece of what you're saying.
No, that is absolutely amazing. And I believe that is something that we all need to be more engaging with, breathing in and out, and allowing that awareness of the surrounding of nature to take over our lives. So let's move from there a little bit about nature and experience of nature to actual fitness, which is part of what this community is about, the body, the fitness, the health. What is the difference then? Let's explore the difference between the gym. I'm a gym person, I go to the gym, but what is the difference between gym and nature?
I used to be a gym person. I have to confess.
You used to be. Well, we all used to be. At the moment it's closed, but I think hopefully they will reopen now. And
I personally think the difference between a gym. So a gym is a controlled environment where everything is in its place. So over there, you have your weights, you have the guys with the muscles. Over here, you have the people like me who think, no, I'm not going with you guys. Your biceps are 4 times the size of mine. I'm not going there. But I'm quite happy to go on the treadmill. And it's incredible because it's so regimented, it's set up, everything's in that controlled space. You know, the temperature is controlled, there's no wind. Even the stuff that you're exposed to, the music, the type of music, the people who are singing, the ads that they show, it's a very, very controlled environment. And so you have to align yourself with that control. Whereas if I go outside and I'm running, I think, well, hold on. Well, yeah, I have no control over all of this. The only thing I have control over, possibly, is my own reaction to what is out there. And when that keeps changing, when it starts to rain and you think, oh yes, so you have to learn the adaptability piece. Whereas the gym's fantastic. I used to go to the gym regularly, but there's a big difference.
Mm.
And so I think that the nature part is far richer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more complex.
No, absolutely. I think it's important. It's an important environment. I having said that, I agree with you because I left, I'm not going to name names, but I left one particular gym in UK because I could not cope with how loud the music was and the type of music.
Yeah.
And it was not putting me into a good state of mind. So I completely left that place. And I agree with you. But in the gym also there's a controlled environment where you have professionals many times, or you train with your crew, or you can actually look in terms of specific movements or specific things that you probably wouldn't be doing in nature. So I think there is a validity of going to the gym, but that cannot be the only environment that you're exposed to fitness and changing a fitness level. I think the outdoor has a lot to offer and much more to offer.
Yeah, very true.
So, for example, you mentioned about when we're talking about this episode, talking about vitamin D, for example, as a classic example, why you cannot get that.
You can't get that in the gym.
And we're affected by SAD and seasonal affective disorder, for example, something that really affects me almost every year. Coming from South America is something that the light of the sun, the lack of light of the sun in the UK or in some other places in the winter. Winter for me is a tough one.
Correct. So that all of those things of being outdoors seriously affects our health, but it's always ongoing. So even you talk about there's stuff you can do in the nighttime. I don't know if you've ever done a nighttime hike. Where that is an experience. If you've
I
not
haven't
done
a nighttime hike. No.
If you've not done it, that is a real sensory extravaganza.
But I know that because where I live in Austria, it's a mountain, and you can hear. Last week, I think there were people trapped in mountains at nighttime but they went there without experience. With almost like normal shoes, normal clothes, and they get trapped. So don't do that.
No.
So you can only do that if you go with people that really understand what they're doing and know the area. But yes, that would be probably. I have done some walk, but I've been exposed to the stars not long time ago when we went out hiking and we were in this hut, and there is even something called stargazing.
Yes.
Right, I'm finishing reading a book from Tim Ferriss now called The Tool of Titans, and it talks the B.J. Miller, which is a physician and also very famous in his TED talk about death and looking after people close to death, and he's talking about how contemplating the stars and walking in the nighttime where there's nothing around you, it changes you because it puts you in perspective.
Correct.
Of your life and who you are and what you're here for, and then it connects you with something that is much bigger than you.
True. So this does connect with what we were talking about awe previously, because what you're describing there is to me an immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to that, it's not a 5-minute thing.
No.
It has to be immersive. In the same way, You have a partner, don't you?
Mm.
If I said to you, how do you want to build your relationship? Well, I give her 5 minutes once a week.
Mm.
And you think, well, you're not going to get very far, mate.
Mm.
Or you think, well, I've so regimented my life that this is all I can afford to do. Well, I can guarantee you that your actions are going to take your relationship in a downward direction. And so why is it that you think this can happen in a relationship, but in your own health and your other areas of your life, you think you can get away with it? And we think we can. Either we get distracted or we actually think we don't put enough energy into it. So the idea of stars and looking up at it is transcendent.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can look at stars for long enough, and that's the beauty of it. If you look long enough, you will continue to see more.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a sense of where you are in the whole bit.
And bear in mind that it's so far from us that when the light reaches here, some of those stars might not even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is how little we are, but how striking is all this experience. I remember years ago when I was in South Tyrol, I saw my first shooting star, and that was such an amazing experience, such a simple thing, but I've never experienced in my whole life.
Yep.
Being brought up sometimes in urban, surrounded by urban life and urban living and light, it's very difficult for you to have those moments. But do you see any changes in the way people exercise outdoors now?
I think,
with your experience?
Yeah, last year when the lockdown first started, there are reports of more and more people going out. More and more people are walking, more and more people are trying to run. So the number of runners has increased. And I think that reflects not just the fact that we are indoors all the time, but there's something that calls to you and says, I need to get out. There is something inside of each one of us that says, I want to get out. This feels like a bit like, there's something I need that I can't get inside. There's something that, you can be warm, you can be comfortable, you can be well fed. Sounds like a bit like prison. But getting out there, that sense
like guinea pigs, right?
Yeah, like guinea pigs. But it's that sense of freedom that people is burning inside of us.
Mm.
So even nowadays, the psychologists say we need change, we need complexity, we need to be able to see different patterns. And if you sit inside, or you're forced to sit inside all the time, you continue to see the same things over and over again. And so mentally, you start to take a downward trend.
Mm-hmm.
If I come back to again being outside, where sometimes at the end of a run, I just stand. And one of the things I notice, you can try this for yourselves, is to go outside and look at the trees. Or even look at everything that's green. And the longer you look, the more patterns you'll see, the more shapes you will see, the more sizes you'll see, and all that is feeding your brain. That is the sort of connection that gives you a sense of it's mental exercise for your brain that has nothing to do with how many emails I've got to answer. It's got nothing to do with the fact that this is hurting or some stress or any other thing. It washes over you and it cleanses. So I think that's vital for going out there.
Is there any problem in being outside or outdoors now? What do you think?
For me, there's several problems. One is I don't like the rain, so I need to steel myself to get out there. Secondly is the sense of the cold. If you're living in a cold climate, you think, So there are problems in that respect. But the beauty of it is that if you can overcome cold, for example, the research is saying now cold has an effect on your hormones. Cold has an effect on your cortisol levels. It builds your immune system.
Mm.
But we got to get past the point of comfort.
Yes.
Past the point of the fact that we are comfortable.
When it comes to that point, I always goes back to the Goggins and you have to have that Carlos mind.
Exactly.
Go in front of the mirror and say, "You're weak. Get out now." So that thing for me is always goes back to him shouting at you and saying, develop that.
Yes, get out there.
Get out there.
Get out there.
Get yourself exposed. For me, it's a difficult thing. Cold for me is the biggest challenge in terms of life choices, where we're all changing, making choices. Two things is for me at the moment is to go into the 5 a.m. club. I'm on the 6 a.m. club. I want to move that barrier a little bit, a few minutes, but it's so difficult.
I'm on the 6 p.m. club.
And then the cold. The cold for me is so challenging. I'm exposing myself more and more to it.
Yeah.
But I know how important. So I go outside when it's quite chilly, and then just t-shirt and a short or something, and expose yourself. Now the challenge I have is to actually dive into one of those cold canals, snow melting canal. I can't go there yet, but I will. And I think that is so important for health.
Yeah, exactly. Because now again, what the research is finding is that we have actually two different types of fat. You have white fat and you have brown fat. And the brown fat is much more metabolically active. So if you're looking to lose weight, for example, the more brown fat you have, the more it increases the odds of you losing weight. Because of the activity of it, it just burns more energy. And they used to think, well, after you get past infancy, the brown fat disappears. But now with the use of new technology, you're finding that a lot of people have brown fat around the back of the shoulders. And so it is still there. So if the more you exercise, the more you convert white fat to brown fat. Mm-hmm. And the brown fat bit is, like I say, it's thermogenic. It allows for activity within your body to keep you moving, to build. And so that piece is important.
That's very interesting. Let's move from fitness to work. What about working in nature, or working in nature, or how incorporate that into your daily work or working activities?
I think, I said before, we can talk about it as really the best benefit you get is to be totally immersed. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate, we all have jobs. We all think, well, I'm stuck indoors. I'm looking at a computer screen for 8-10 hours a day. And I can't, come on, you got to be joking. How am I getting out there? The answer to that is the answer to the question of health, where because we're so sedentary people over a period of time have higher risk of obesity, have higher risk of diabetes, have higher risk of strokes and heart attacks. So I would say, well, if you can't do an hour, 5 minutes, simply getting up and standing outside makes a huge difference. Standing outside, grounding yourself on the earth is really important for our health. So I'm not advocating we all give up jobs, but actually you can use the tech that you have. Everybody's got one of those smartphones, as they call it, but most of those smartphones make us more stupid. But that's a different question.
A different episode, right?
Different episode.
Is your smartphone helping your resilience? That's the thing.
But there are apps out there that will tell you.
Yes. I know. For example, Tim Ferriss uses a lot. Some of these guys use a lot of apps to really help them to navigate through their lives, and perhaps we are from a different generation.
Well, at least one of us is.
So let's focus now on what is out there. What are people doing in nature these days? Have you found some interesting things?
Yes. Now we're rediscovering new to the West, but has been around for a long time. The Japanese have this process of relaxation they call Shinrin-yoku, which basically means going out into a forest and experiencing it. In the West, we're now starting to touch on it. The National Trust are putting experiences together for people. They're calling it forest bathing. That's the equivalent, where you go into that forest, and again, it's that whole immersive piece. You're just walking around and perhaps just looking. And the more you look, and the more you feel, the more you hear, the more in tune your body becomes. And so that builds that sense of...
I think it's easier if you are in places like where I live now in Austria, and even in Slovenia. It's probably easier for us to do that than when you're in UK.
Yes.
To find a forest where you can do that. But I've been doing that quite regularly for the past 2.5 years. Yeah.
And again, the concept of tree hugging is something that people would think, oh yeah, that sounds a bit hippie-ish, isn't it? And I'm not going to say I'm a great tree hugger myself, but I see the benefit of it. The actual physical contact. We've been missing hugging for the last year. So if you actually go out and put your arms around a tree, that physical contact to another living entity, a plant, a tree, has its own life.
It's interesting because in the book that I'm reading now on the same subject, it talks about how trees can calibrate their levels of energy.
Right.
That you can hear them, you can understand the energy that goes and the vibration. And you know that Nikola Tesla said that everything within the universe is about
vibrations.
Yeah, energy, frequency, and vibration. And you know that by doing it, it's not something like hipster or crazy or whatever you want to call it. It's true science that you are exchanging that energy.
Correct.
That is perfectly calibrated in nature and in the tree to you. It's that transmutation of energy that exists at that time.
And now they're looking as well in terms of the Earth. The Earth has a magnetic field. Everybody knows the Earth's got a magnetic field. And how does that influence you and I? What is that connect or disconnect? So now there's a movement growing called earthing, which is so simple in its concept. Is basically being outside and able to touch the ground with your bare skin. So either in simple terms, it's going out. Just go outside and walk with no shoes on.
I don't know about you. When growing up, where I grew up, that was something that you would play football with in your bare feet, and everything you did would be like that.
Yeah.
I would walk the 500 meters distance from my home to the beach in bare feet, and then trendy trainers come in and all these shoes, and then suddenly nobody's touching the ground anymore.
Yes.
Nobody's grounding themselves and exchanging that.
So there's at the moment some very, very early research on the idea of whether or not people who spend a long time in that sort of space can reduce levels of inflammation in their body, for example. Because, again, coming back to the magnetic field and the electrons and the idea that the Earth has electrons, and we are electrically charged beings. And sometimes you need that connection again to discharge, because otherwise a lot of the stuff that's in your body can be just locked up. So we have that same sort of, the whole thing circles around our parasympathetic and sympathetic. Sympathetic is that tense sort of fight or flight.
So Johnson, how does being in nature affect our brains? So we're talking about resilience and the ability to bounce back, to get that strength. And it's in our brains, it's in our mind also, but the brain is where all the hormones, all the chemistry takes place. So can you explain to us a bit?
Well, there are a few pieces that we're now getting to understand. The first thing is a lot of your brain activity, okay, your brain takes up 20% of the energy of your body, doing nothing. And if you go and you sit at your desk and you're doing some work, etc., it takes up another 5 to 10%. So you immediately, your body's using the energy. If you go outside and you just stop and you allow yourself to be soaked in nature, all of this energy drops. So that energy, because we only have so much energy, it allows that refreshing to happen.
Mm.
The other piece, which is absolutely amazing, is where there's a plant that people have discovered now, a fungi, a very, very simple fungi that produces serotonin.
Wow. And
serotonin is the stuff that affects your mood. But you can only get it, because it's a fungi, by lying down.
Mm.
So that connects again to the idea of being in nature, but being close to,
mm-hmm.
being immersed in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important. I don't know if you've ever been, you must know what it's like when you go around waterfalls.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel when you're around the waterfall?
Yeah, there's such an energy. I love being in waterfalls and allowing the water to hit my back and being there and exposed and
you feel refreshed.
Yes.
It affects your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, they look at negative ions around waterfalls. So where waterfalls are, there's I think 100 parts per 100 cubic meters of water. There are these negative ions. People buy these ion diffusers to sleep with,
mm-hmm.
but say, hey, come on, you can go outside and get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it affects your brain in that respect. It lifts your mood. You feel more alive. And when we can measure it, if you go on a motorway mm-hmm. and you measure the amount of negative ions,
mm-hmm.
you're getting about minuscule amounts of it. So
mm-hmm.
the whole idea of the environment, of nature, etc., does affect our brains.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at where people, a lot of the charities do their work outside.
Mm-hmm.
The charities for people who are elderly, who are ill, who have some sort of handicap, be it physical, be it mental. The sense of working together and with your hands in the soil
mm-hmm.
and watching things
Absolutely.
grow, it lightens your
There's
mood.
a whole movement of going back to the countryside and working with work your hands, working with the land, developing that sort of a native culture of exchange with nature and planting and herbs. And so a lot of people are looking to this type of lifestyle after being exposed to so many years of crazy urban stress, urban living. So that's a whole exodus happening right now. I would love to carry on talking forever, but let's just say, well, great to talk about this, but first of all, we're going to put a lot of these links in the description of the video on the website. You can read by yourself. Also, that's one chapter in the book, the Resilience Playbook that we're writing. So there's a whole chapter on that. So there's more that you can explore and learn more about resilience and nature, which is a very important chapter in our humanity, that for us to live a healthy, resilient, vibrant life, we need to be in tune with nature.
Totally agree.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you guys. Subscribe, like, share. Let's grow the community. We'll be soon together in another episode. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.